Greetings my little gourmets. We're going to do some baking. We're going to make a Swiss roll again. Well, we made a Swiss roll, we made a Yule log. Okay, this is going to be like a more of a traditional Swiss roll, except it's a little bit different because I've had a challenge. I've been challenged and I said you won't beat what I'm going to do. Alright, so this is a recipe I found on the YouTube. CupCakeJemma, who runs a cake shop of Soho, I think it is, and this is one of her recipes, and I'm this time going to be following it. And I have downloaded the template which you're going to be needing. Okay, so if you find CupCakeJemma, I'll see if I can get a link on it. Okay, you can use that template. I wasn't going to bother, and then I thought, no, the trouble is if I don't use that template, I'm going to make a right pig's ear of it. So you're going to need that, and what we're going to do first off is we're going to prepare the dots. Okay, so we're going to make up a bit of batter or whatever you want to call it, so that we can pipe out them dots. So when we've made this, we're going to then have to split it into 6, and I've picked 6 colours there. Okay, and it don't wash off, right? Because they all need, most of them need the lids taken off, you know, the 4 lids. So I managed to get it on me, right? So to start with, you're going to need 50 grams of icing sugar, which we're just going to sift into that bowl. 50 grams of softened unsalted butter, 2 egg whites, which I've got measured out there, and 50 grams of plain flour. Again, we'll sift that into the bowl. Okay, and like I said, we're going to mix all that up, and then we're going to pipe it on as little dots onto there. So we're going to have to get 6 different bowls to make up the individual colours. So a lot of washing up this one. Right, so I'll take my icing sugar and I'm just going to sift that into the bowl. Okay. So in a way, the dots, I suppose, it's a little bit like a buttercream, but it's going to flour it. So I'm just going to sieve that into there, and then we take our 50 grams softened butter, and it will, typical, everywhere. And then what we're going to do is we're now just going to whisk these two together, and what will happen is we'll end up with clouds of icing sugar everywhere. Okay, so that ended up making clouds of icing sugar every bloody where, as you might expect. So you'll see some over the back there. So now I'm going to add in them egg whites. Okay, so that was 2 egg whites, and we're now just going to beat that together. Now we're just mixing this in. Once we've got this sort of generally mixed, we'll then sieve in the flour, and then we'll want to make sure it's all thoroughly smoothly mixed in. So in goes my flour into my sieve, and like I say, we're just going to add that into there, and then the idea will be we'll just whisk that until it's all mixed in nice and smooth, and then we'll be wanting to divide up that mixture into 6. So this is where I find I don't have 6 identical bowls. So I've got 5 bowls, but we'll leave one in there anyway, won't we? So I'm just going to spoon some of that into each one. Okay, so like I say, I'm just going to divide this up into about 6 portions. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to take some of my food colouring. Now we're not really looking for a completely delicate colour. We want it to be nice and strong. Okay, so add a good dollop of your colour. We want it nice and bright. Okay, so just add the colour, make sure it's all thoroughly mixed in, and just add enough until you're happy you've got the intensity. Right, so I'm just going to colour all 6 of these, 6 different colours. Right, now I'm not using my Swiss roll tin that I bought for my Yule log because this is going to be a slightly smaller one. Okay, it wants to be about an A4 size one. I'm not too worried about the edges on this because we're going to trim the edges of this one. So what we do is we lay our template in there, but we obviously don't want to get making our cake on top of that. So this is where you're then going to need a sheet of baking powder, baking paper or whatever, okay? And we would just then pipe onto the parchment paper. We'll be leaving the bottom paper in there, okay, but it's going to be separate from the sponge when we pour it in. So, and also while you're at it, cut yourself another sheet, because when we then turn this all out, after we've baked it, you want another sheet, so you might as well cut them both now. So, I don't have disposable pottery bags. I've got these sandwich bags, which are a bit expensive, I know, a bit of a waste, but I'll use them. So, all we're going to do is we're going to add each of these colours to the bag, and then we're just going to snip off a little point so that we can pipe it. Okay, so that's going to be a little bit tricky, me doing that on my own. So I'm just going to slip that bag in there. Well, hang on, go on then, might as well see me make a bloody mess of myself. So there's not an awful lot here, okay, we're only making little dots. So we just scrape all of that into the bag and we get all 6 done, okay, and then we'll be ready to pipe our polka dots. Okay, so a little bit more colourful, a little bit more exciting if you like, than your normal Swiss roll, and tons of bloody washing up. So I'm going to get filling the rest of the bags. Okay, so I'm just going to snip off the bottom, and then I'm going, wait, it's already gone on, it's a bit runny this one. I'm just going to make a little circle, okay, over the appropriate template. So it's just a matter of going along with each colour, try not to get it everywhere else, like I just did. Now the problem is going to be that when we come, obviously, to, just done the wrong one there, never mind. When we come to, put the other stuff on, what's going to happen is obviously it would all just spread. So when we've covered all this, it wants to either go in the freezer for about 15-20 minutes, or you want to put it in the fridge for about half an hour, just to harden these up a little bit, so that then when we pour our sponge mix over the top, it's not a problem. I'm just going to clean this up, finish off that last dot, and then do the rest of them. Okay, they're all covered. Did one little mishap there, but it's so close to the others, I'm not going to risk everything up. So now, like I say, ideally this wants to go in the freezer, okay, for about 15 minutes, just to set these, and then we're going to, once I put them in there, we're then going to make the main sponge to go on it. Right, so I've got 3 eggs that I've separated, whites in one bowl, yolks in the other, excuse me, 80 grams of cast sugar, 45 grams of unsalted butter that's nice and soft, 75 grams of flour, which we'll be sifting, and then we'll add a little bit of vanilla essence. Okay, so first thing first, I'm going to take my egg whites and I'm going to add about half of that sugar to the whites, and then we're just going to whisk that up. We're going to whisk that until we get to, you know, like your typical meringue sort of peaky type thing. Okay, so that's just about there. That's all we want a minute. Now, it doesn't matter. We're going to use the same whisk. So now we take our egg yolks and then we put the remainder of the sugar in with the egg yolks. And we now whisk that up. And we want that to go nice and light and pale and well mixed in. Right, so that's got a nice pale creamy colour. So what we do is now, a bit like when we made the Yule log, we're going to fold this in gently, but we're going to do it in batches, alright, because we don't want to knock all the air out. So basically take about 1/3 of it, put it in there, and then just gently fold it in. Best way of doing it is circle and cut through the middle. Okay, so folded that in. It's not all fully mixed yet, but it doesn't matter because we can add a few more bits. So now I'm going to take some vinegar extract. Okay, about half a teaspoon of that. Okay, so that's going to go in there. And now we're going to take the flour, okay, about half of it, just going to put it through a sieve, okay. That's going to go into that. And the butter, I've softened that, sort of partly melted it, okay, just to help get it in there, okay. So again, about half of that, and we now just fold all that in, okay, same way as before. And then when that's almost done, again, we're trying not to knock too much air out. We'll then add the remaining flour and the remaining butter. Okay, now you need to just get your spatula right down there, and notice the butter sinks right to the bottom, so you want to get that out. I've got my tray back out of the freezer, so these dots should be, well, they are pretty firm, and so I'm basically going to pour this over the top, okay, and then we'll use a palette knife to spread it out all over the top. You need your oven on, it wants to be about 180 degrees C. Like I say, don't worry about the fact that it's going to go and stick to the edges. When we did the Yule log, if you remember, we did it so it was like a little box container. What we're going to do here is we're actually going to trim it before we tip it out, so it won't matter if it's stuck to the edges. So, whoops, some of them dots already started to melt. So that's going to go in that oven now, preheated, like I said, to 180 for about 7 to 8 minutes. Okay, and when it's nice and springy on top, that's when it's done. Okay, so that's it cooked. So what we're going to do now is just going to run along the edges and just cut some nice straight edges, okay, just inside, and this not only give it nice clean edges, but it will also make sure that it should come out of the pan. Okay, so I'm just going to get them trimmed. Okay, now we're going to tip it out onto some kind of sheet. Okay, so it's up to you how you want to do it. Okay, but wind at the pan because the pan is like not. Right. So all we do is we flip it over. Okay, and then hope that it's going to come out. It's going to come out that way, I think. Turn it that way. There we go. So there's our semi-trimmed thing. There's a little bit left on there. I'm just going to get that off in a second, but I'm leaving that parchment paper on there. All right. So I'm just going to get this edge out from underneath here. Okay. And then I'll show you what we do. So we're going to roll it while it's still hot. Okay, now what we're going to do now is we're going to turn it out again, this time onto a tea towel. Okay, so we've still got the parchment paper on, the template's on there, parchment is on here, and we're just flipping it over onto the tea towel. Okay, and then this is decided to stick. So just going to get this off of there onto the tea towel. Okay, so now this is where we take that second bit of parchment paper and we lay that on there. Okay, and now we're going to start rolling it up, picking up that bottom bit of paper. Okay, and we're going to start rolling it over so this top layer of parchment paper stays on the inside, and as we go we will be gently separating. It's easy once it gets going, okay? We will gently separate the bottom sheet, as it were. It's just getting that initial fold going. Once that starts rolling, it'll be a lot easier. Okay, so just going to carry on rolling that until I've got it all rolled up and I've got the bottom bit of paper off. So now, I'm now just going to roll it back, still rolled up, but I'm just now going to roll it up into the tea towel. Okay, and that's where now, like before, we're just going to let that cool. Alright, so I'm just going to have a little bit of a clear up here. Got some nice little bit of sponge trimmings. What's that? Sorry, what? Be dried up because it's the edge bit. But so now it's up to you what you fill it with. If you follow CupCakeJemma, she uses like cream, I don't know, buttercream or whatever it is, but she uses a lot of whipped cream and jam. We're doing lemon curd because that's what was requested. Okay, so done a bit of the washing up and clearing away. So now what we're going to do is, it's still quite warm, but we're now going to carefully unroll it, and this is where we're now going to give it our lemon curd filling. So I'm just going to spread this over there. This is the odd bit that wouldn't fit in the jar. Okay, didn't want to waste it. I knew I was going to be using it later. So let's just about put all that out of there. So I'm now just going to coat this and then we'll roll it back up. Okay, so now taking that bottom bit of paper, we're now gently going to roll it up, but obviously this time we are not rolling the paper into it. Okay, so whoop, gently rolling it over. Nice big blob, lemon curd going everywhere. So our final little thing is we're just going to take a nice sharp knife, actually better with a serrated knife, okay, and we're just going to trim the end off. And the end off that one. And there we have our polka dot lemon curd Swiss roll with conveniently some tasting material. Oh boy, it's a bit difficult to pick it up. Nice, really moist sponge. Nice tang of lemon curd. So there you have it. Polka dot lemon curd Swiss roll, courtesy of CupCakeJemma, actually, and her homemade lemon curd recipe.